Hey, what's up, Life Without Pants with another Path of Exile video, and today's video we're going to talk about tools, the tools that we use all the time to make Path of Exile a better experience for us. These are just the tools that I'm using. If there's any you think that I missed, let me know down in the comments, and if there's any you want me to do a larger explanation on or a tutorial video on, please let me know as well, because we're going to skip through these relatively far. I don't want this to be a long video, but if you have any questions as well, you could just always pop by the stream. We're live every day on twitch.tv/lifewithoutpants. So let's start off with the first one. And the first one is not going to surprise anyone. It's Path of Building. This is honestly the default way to plan any build if you are thinking about trying something new out. It's got basically an emulation of the entire skill tree of the entire game and damage that you could expect to do. So you can just select all your stuff up here if you want to be a assassin perhaps, and then you can add in your lab points. You can add in any points that you want to take on the skill tree, see how it would shake out. You can go and add in a set of skills, so you can just chuck in, I don't know, frost bomb over here, and then add in any supporting skills. And for your items, you can either craft your own stuff, which is really useful, or you can just select from the unique items in the game. So if you wanted to just put on a mage blood, then you just need to type in mage blood here, and then you can change any of the rolls on it here and add that straight in. Obviously, there's also importing, so you can import from your own character or anybody else's character. So you just go and take the character list from whatever league it is that you want. So I'm going to take this this solo self-found Deadeye practice run that we're doing, and you can just import all your passive trees and jewels and your items and skills, and then you can go over and see this is how we are doing so far, and what skills we're using, what items we're using, and it knows all of it. And also you can import stuff if you just have a code as well. So I got this code here. This is, I think, some DPS build from standard. So they're doing 6.1 billion DPS, probably like day 3 gear, I'm imagining. But this tool, absolutely fantastic. There's also this show node power down here, so you can figure out which is the most impactful node for you to take next. There's so much in this tool, it's insane. And I don't think a single video would be able to cover it all, but there's timeless jewels as well, so you can figure out if you wanted a brutal restraint, if you wanted a Nasima brutal restraint, and you wanted to put it in the the elemental equilibrium slot, and then search for the nodes you want. So maybe you want like % increased dexterity or flat dexterity, that kind of stuff. It's got everything in here. If you want to make a build, this is the way to do it. So it's quite expansive, this tool. Honestly, I think we need to move on to the next one because we could be here all day. All right, next up is Awakened PoE Trade, which is largely a price checking macro, but it has a lot of other features as well. I use this especially when I'm practicing rushing through the campaign. I'll just find a bow somewhere like this one. I'll pick it up off the floor, or I'll ID it, and I'll just I use Control D to do the price checking. So it brings up this panel here, and then you can see the price of these things, and you can add in these things like add in any of the modifiers that it's got on it. You can, if you click this, you can remove the fact that it's a 5 link. And I use it just largely to identify how much DPS a bow does, which is really useful when you're looking for an upgrade very quickly. But just being able to hit this and see, okay, it's doing 739 elemental DPS. How much does mine do? It does 1,500. So it's really useful for that. It's also useful, if you just want to know how much something costs. So say I've got a Watcher's Eye here, and I want to just check out any Watcher's Eye with maximum ES as mana while affected by clarity, or while affected by increased attack damage while affected by precision. I can just hit that, and then it tells me exactly how much it costs, so I know what I've got in my hands. And I mentioned some other features it has as well. If you do shift space, then it brings up this sort of a widget thing here. I'm using it for, so there's a cheat sheets that you can use. So I've got this Orb of Horizons cheat sheet. I'll put a link to the to this in the description to get this cheat sheet. This is for 323. So when you're going through the campaign and you want to know, oh, I got one T9 map that I haven't done, so I can take any Foundry, Sepulchre, Park, Spider Lair, Channel, or Iceberg, and I can use some Orb of Horizons on it, and it eventually turn into the one I don't have. So really useful for that. I've got the Betrayal one here as well, because I kind of like doing Mortal Syndicate. It's also got regexes that you can store as well, so Metamorph on the way out. But I have actually, I think I have a Metamorph one around here somewhere. Yeah, so here's Metamorph Trash. So this is, if I just click on this, then it throws the regex into the search box at the bottom, and it just highlights stuff I want. So the reason I would want this Metamorph thing is because it's got currency items. So I'm gonna have to use all these before in the next couple of days. But this can also be used for example, I've got one here for heist. So if I wanted to pull out the best stuff from my heist locker, I can just hit, for me it's Shift and Space to bring up this menu. And I just hit this and it's highlighting deception contracts, perception contracts. It's going to be highlighting ones that are priceless, ones that are I think precious as well. So it's got so many uses, and you don't have to remember all the regexes. But we're going to talk about regexes a little bit in a minute. But also map rolling as well. So I've got regen, reflect here. So these are the maps I don't want to run. Those are the ones with regen and reflex on them. So if I had, I think I've got a map dump tab here, but I've got some maps here. And if I just put this on, then it highlights all of the ones that have regen and reflect on them. And those are the ones I'm not going to want to run. So here, this one, monsters reflect 18% of elemental damage. So I know I'm either going to have to sell this one, or I'm going to have to re-roll it, or whatever it is. So when you're getting up a bunch of maps to roll, this is super useful. So that's how we can PoE trade. Let's go on to the next one. All right, and next up is poe.ninja. This is a fantastic site. It gives you a really, really good current economy overview. It's similar but dissimilar to price checking macros. Most of the price checking macros will use PoE Ninja prices. So it's, this largely based off of this site, but it's really, really useful for if you know you want something, you need to find out how much it costs. So if you go to the unique jewels, then you can go and find out that, oh, an immutable force is going to cost me around 300 chaos orbs. If you want to finish off your Uber Elder, then you can go and try and find the fragment of shape that you're missing, or the fragment of knowledge, whichever fragment that you're missing. It's got lots, look at all these different categories. There's so many. There's even one for vials, and these are, not used that much, but there's all of these different things. There's one for skill gems. This is going to be very interesting in the upcoming league with all the changes. Div cards, especially something I use a lot at the time as well. So there's this economy section here. Then there's the build section as well. And this is, again, this could have its own video just for how complete this thing is. There's so much stuff going on here, but you can organize by league as well here. It's got a time machine, so you can go back in time to say, if you wanted to know on day 2 of Ancestor League, who's using Calms. It's going to be a lot of dead eyes. Yeah, there's a lot of dead eyes. And then you wanted to look up, if they're using the Poised Prism, and they're also using Focal Point, and if they're using Focused Ballista support or Anger. Then you can organize them by DPS, and then in here you can just open up the build that person had on that day with all that gear, and then you can change the time machine to go and see what else they had later on and how their build progressed. Super powerful website, poe.ninja. It's honestly, there's so much that we could talk about on it, but we don't have time, so we're gonna move on to the next one. And next up is Path of Exile. This is, I cannot communicate how necessary this is. It's absolutely ridiculously useful. You can basically check out what kind of modifiers are on or available to any kind of item. So say if we wanted some strength boots, we go over here, we select boots, we select strength, and then we can select the eye level as well. So let's say 67. So some boots you found in the campaign, and they got, I don't know, like not in the campaign, you found them later on, but they got hunter influence. They're level 67 for whatever reason. And here you can see the regular prefixes and suffixes that are possible to roll, and these ones are blocked out because, you know, this is item level 78, can't have that on a 67 base. And, oh, maybe these are, maybe we've actually got to put it at, I don't know, let's say 80. So that we can have the hunter influences here. And then you can see what kind of stuff you could get if it was hunter influenced. If you add the hunter influence on, then you're going to be able to get tailwind if you have a critical strike, and it's 0.177% chance likely to get. And then you can select a crafting method, so you're going to be, you know, Orb of Alteration spamming for tailwind. Then you've got 565 tries most likely in order to be able to roll that on your boots. You can select, you know, there's essences, you can select just chaos spamming. It's going to cost you 208 chaos orbs to be able to get that. So if you're paying more than 208 chaos orbs for a pair of tailwind boots, you're probably doing it wrong. Unless, you know, you're only going for magic items. You can select a different, you know, an essence that you're running with. So maybe you're using doubt essences, 1 in 235. Obviously, it's very, very difficult to go into everything here. We've got the veiled modifiers. We've got, you know, incursion stuff. We've got all the crafting bench mods here. There's the delve specific stuff. Then there's essence things as well. And then there's Val implicits. And then there's the Exarch and Eta implicits. So maybe you want to get action speed. And it's a, you know, it's a 1 in, was it like, yeah, 1 in 1.984% chance? Or not 1 in, but yeah, around 2% chance to get action speed when you're spamming with Exarch. There's a lot in this website, and this is just the calculator. You can then go to the simulator and use the calculator settings and say, I've got these things, and I'm using essences, I'm using doubt essences, and I want to get this. And then you can start the simulation, and it'll say, okay, I used this many. I attempted to use an essence of doubt on these boots. We could just stop it now. I did it 1,278 times, and 4 of them passed. So 4 of them came to the conclusion that you wanted, which was that you got tailwind on them. You can then go and look at the items that it made using the calculator. Then you can go to the emulator, and you can use the calculator settings, and you can just mess around with doing this stuff on your own anyway. So I can just use as many essences as I want on this pair of boots. And it even has a history here, so you can go back. Oh, like undo that one. This is insane. It's got all of the crafting options that you would reasonably use on a pair of boots. You can like Val them. There we got +2 level socketed duration gems. Now all the crafting stuff is grayed out because you can't really craft on corrupted items. But there's, you know, you can double corrupt them. So we get this here. It's pretty nice. You can do beast crafting on it, so maybe we're going to do suffix to prefix. There's, you know, you can exalt slam stuff, you can annul it. There's so much stuff here, and the emulator I use a lot. Largely before any big craft that I do, I always do it in the emulator just in case, just to make sure that I don't like accidentally make an issue like I have done many times on the stream of rolling on the wrong base, or I've gone under eye level base quite a few times, and it's been quite costly. But yeah, any big craft I'm going to do in here is going to be recreated in this tool before I try and do it in game, because I want to make sure that I get it right. Anyway, that's it for Path of Exile. Honestly, you could go here, and there's, I think Gazzy's got a video on the front page as well, so you can go and have a look at, you know, if you're not really very familiar with crafting, it's one of the best things to learn in Path of Exile. But yeah, there's a video from Gazzy here. Go check it out. It's really good. But yeah, that's Path of Exile. Let's get on to the next one. All right, and next up is the Chaos Recipe Enhancer. Now this is honestly, just so necessary at the beginning of a league. It's so useful. just to make your early currency gains, just to be able to get a few chaos to fund your build, get the early uniques you want. Like for my build, I want to get Shadows and Dust pretty early. These are really, really nice Rampage gloves to get, and they really, really fit in my build. I'm going to be going for a few other things as well. So I want to maybe get like a Barracks Respite, or I want to get a Karoo Ward. And this just allows me to really quickly get the chaos I need in order to do that. And that's because if you vendor a full set of items, as in body armor, helmet, gloves, boots, 2 rings, amulet, and 2 weapons, or like a 2-handed weapon, or 2 single weapons, or I think a weapon and a shield. So you can do like 2 wands is fine because it's a small, it's a smaller inventory space. But if you vendor those and they're unidentified and they're in between, I think it's level 60 and level 74 item level. If they're in between those 2, then you get 2 chaos orbs back from the vendor. And you can do, you can fit 2 sets of that in 1 full inventory. So you can do 2 at a time. So you can get 4 chaos orbs for that. And this tool, all it does is you log into it with OAuth now. It's a new version of this out, based, instead of the previous ones with the big white UI. This is a slightly more dark mode friendly one, and it reads your stash tabs that you've got here. So it'll read all of the items in here. So I've got a bunch of these rings and stuff, and then you'll fetch the data from the stash tab, and it'll say, oh, you've got enough of these gloves and boots and helmets. So I'm going to grade those out, and I'm going to highlight these things, and these things are the ones you need. And then it will manipulate your loot filter in order to highlight those items on the ground. And for that, you want to make sure you have a local on your machine copy of your loot filter, and that one is selected, and it's named different to the one that you have on the Path of Exile servers, because it will try to use a command to reload that loot filter, and it will prefer to reload the one on the servers. So if you have one on the server called Chaos Recipe, and then you have one on your local machine called Chaos Recipe, it will probably bug out a little bit. So just call it Chaos Recipe 2 or something like that. And this tool, honestly, so useful. I use it every league. There is never a league when I don't use this, because it is just so good at getting early Chaos Recipe. If you're going to go Ruckus, then it's going to be really, really fantastic for you as well. You can change all of the loot filters and the hotkeys and stuff, and there's lots and lots of settings that you can play around with. I'm going to link down below a video by the creator of this explaining how it works, so that you can go check that out if you want to dive into it further if you haven't used it before. But that's it for Chaos Recipe Enhancer. Now let's get on to the next one. All right, and next up is not really the trade site, but kind of the trade site. I mean, the trade site is fantastic, and finding stuff that other people have listed. Maybe you want some, I think some fragments of, shape and of knowledge. Being able to find those and get those from people is fantastic. But what I really want to talk about is better trading, which is, in my mind, just it's like good bookmarks for the trade site. So I have here, these are basically my saved bookmark folders for stuff that I want from the trade site. So if I like crafting base, if I want a fractured +1 arrow quiver, I can just go and click that. And then all of these things here have plus bow attacks, fire, and additional arrow fracture on them. There's a few other, there's filters in here that I've put in. So not mirrored, not corrupted, item level 81 minimum, that kind of thing. The way this works is you can, if we just go and say, let's find some strength boots. We're always looking for strength boots. So we just go for boots. We want them to have at least 1 armor, not more than 1 energy shield or evasion or ward. And we just search for those, and then we can find here there's these some very decent ones here. Maybe we want some move speed on those boots, and then we want, I don't know, some resistances up to, I don't know, 10 resistance as well. A really useful thing to do on the trade site is to use the tilde key, which is the squiggly one, and my Swedish keyboard hates that key. But then you can type in something, it's pretty close to, as an operator. So it's the tilde key is like, if I now type in, I know, say we want some val implicits, we could do implicit, and then what's good on boots? Oh, action speed. And then it just, from IMPL and ACTIO, it knows that I mean increased action speed is an implicit. So I can just go and hit that. So the tilde key, very important. It didn't find anything, but what I can then do is, say I did find something, then I can go and create a new folder here in Better Trading. I can say, yes, this is for my jug. I want to have this cool jug build. And I can now, whenever I go into here, I can register the current trade, boots, action speed implicit. So I remember what it is, I save it, and then when I'm not looking at that thing anymore, I can just go straight back to it and not find any items for this one. But I've got a lot of these for, say, the lightning arrow artillery ballista build. That this is, I order these in the way I want to get them. So the first thing I want to get is a prism weave belt, because those are super useful, and 10 fusings is pretty cheap. But early league, these are very cheap for what they give for lightning arrow artillery ballista builds. So then I can go and try and find my poised prism, or I can try and get a taming ring, which is going to be pretty expensive. Or I can try and find a mid-game bow, which I think is going to be something with 1.4 attacks per second and 550 LED DPS. I think that's a very, very decent mid-game bow. So Better Trading is, honestly, I think it's pretty much required now for using the trade website, because it just gives you so much control over all of the bookmarks that you have for it instead. So that's Better Trading on the trade website. Let's go on to the next one. And next up is something called wealthyexile.com. So this is a really, really useful tool that sprung out of the demise of Excellence Next. And it just selects these tabs that you have. So cash, for me, it's the currency, maps, fragments, essences, div cards, blight, deli, metamorph, soon to be ultimatum, and delve tabs. And then it just puts your net worth here. And this is really, really useful for if you've been doing a big farming session. Then you can just go and select the delve stuff and be like, oh, okay, I've got like 76 divines worth of delve stuff. I should probably sell that. Maybe go sell it on TFT or in PoE Stack or wherever. So this is a really, really useful thing. It's very lightweight, which I really, really like. I use PoE Stack a bit, and because of the sheer number of tabs that I have and the rate limiting that GGG enacts on pulling that much stuff from the Stash API, this works just way better for me. So I can just go and look at Metamorph and be like, oh, I've got 24 divines of Metamorph stuff in Catalysts, or I've got 21 divines of Blight stuff. It's a really, really useful lightweight tool. Next up is Path of Exile Regex. I use this quite a lot as well. The vendor thing I think is particularly useful, especially on League launch. So if you wake up on the beach, you go kill Hillock, and you wander into Lionized Watch, and you want to, like, if you're playing Lightning Arrow Artillery, so like I am, you want a 3 green as a priority. You want a 3 green body armor or gloves or something. And this has just got regex so that you can chuck in here. And it's also got runner's boots as well, I've selected. And you can see here, this has got it's a green, green, and then a third socket, or green, green, green is what I'm looking for. And that's what I've selected here. So I've selected my link colors as green, green, and white, which is star. So like anything will fit that. So green, 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 red, or green, green, blue. And then 3 green as well. And then I've also elected to get a runner's boots here. So if we just reset it, then I can look for any red, and whatever. Maybe I want a green red as well, and movement speed, like the best kind of movement speed ones, 15%, which you're not going to get in Act 1. But then you come over to Tarkly and you can just chuck this in, and you'll see that, oh, here's my red green shield that I need, or here's my, oh, that's a chrome. Yeah, I'll take that, and then sell it back to you. But that's one of the uses for this. Obviously there's map modifiers as well. So if you don't want to have, I don't know, you can select all the things you don't want here. So You can say, oh, I don't want to have monsters reflect elemental or fizz damage. I definitely want to have more magic monsters. And then you can copy this and go into your stash tab and chuck it in, and then it'll spit out exactly, it'll highlight the ones that conform to it. So it'll highlight the ones that do not have these things but do have these. And then you can start re-rolling your maps as you seem necessary. It's also got an expedition thing, so you can chuck this in on Gwenon, and then only buy the things from Gwenon that you want. So let's go and example do that right now. So let's just copy this, and we go and talk to Gwenon here, and we can just do this. And I've got some artifacts here, so it'll just highlight leather belts because I want a headhunter, or heavy belts because I want a mage blood. Oh, I got a hunter one. That's nice. And not the right kind of unique heavy belt. Anyway, so you can also, this is just the automatic one to, with minimum value 400, but you could also put in 100 here, and then automatically add these things, and it'll add in all these other things here. It's also got a tiering system as well, so you can have a play with this. It's really, really fun. The heist stuff, I think maybe this is going to change a little bit because of how heist is changing. But this is, if you just want like a deception contracts in between 1 and 4, then it'll tell you how to, what to look for in your heist inventory. And then there's flasks and bestiary as well. So poe.re, I use this quite a lot, especially this section on League Launch for the vendor stuff. Next up is the Timeless Jewel Calculator, and if you are using a build that uses a Timeless Jewel, then this is honestly, it's mandatory, I think, to use this because it's super, super useful. So you can just select the skill tree here, and I'm a bow character, so I'm going to go over here. I'm going to be using this one right here, and it says, okay, these are all of the passives in a radius. So then you can say, I'm going to be using a Lethal Pride, I want it to be Rakiata the Conqueror. I think that only matters for the Keystone transformation, but then you can go over to select stats, and you can say, I want increase maximum life. You can deselect everything, and then you can add on like, oh, I'm using Quick Step, I've also got Intuition, I'm taking Herbalism, I've got these nodes here, and definitely taking all these things as well. And then make sure that you add in all of the things that you want. So if you're going to go for, let's say, increased burning damage, and you want to take increased strength, and you want to have, I think there's going to be flat strength and increased strength here as well, and then maximum fortification. And then you can just ask it to search for them, and it will look, and it's found 8. There are 2 things here which have 8 matches. So there are 2 here that have 8 instances of the stats I selected on these notables, and that means, and then there's a trade link as well, so you can go to the trade link. Maybe it doesn't exist, this one in, oh, it does, it's 10 divines. So this way you can prioritize the things that you want. Maybe it's maybe you want lots of strength, or you want lots of increased strength. If you're going for Omni, then that's usually it's a pretty common thing. But this is a really, really good way to get the stats that you really, really want, especially with non-curse auras from your skills, stuff like that. Really good way to find the timeless jewel of your dreams. And what list would be complete without a little word about Filterblade? Because this is a tool that you can use to create, customize, and mess around with your loot filters. I have a bunch of filters here, and there's lots of really, really decent presets. You can go and just search for, I don't know, like fractured items. I want to say I wanted to change my fractured item visibility in my loot filter. I use this probably every day, pretty much. A lot of the time when you get a good loot filter, how you can tell that you got a good loot filter is you don't think about it at all. Like, you don't think, oh, I wish I could change this, or I wish this was different. You just zoom with it. So Filterblade, honestly, this is one of those tools where it probably needs its own video to go through all of it, and it changes a lot all the time, because Filterblade changes probably more than the base game. There's definitely always something going on, and the guy behind it, Neversink, and the team there, honestly, they deserve all our energy. But Filterblade, super useful. If you have no idea what you're doing with loop filters, then I would recommend just, you know, go for, like, at the beginning of the league, go for the soft, and then day 2, day 3, go for regular, and then day 4, 5, and 6, go for semi-strict, and, you know, mess around with it. It's free. So check out Filterblade. It's really useful. All right, and last but definitely not least is the PoELadder.com Tainted Mythic Orb Calculator. Now, this is not for everyone. This is a little bit of a niche one that I'm a huge fan of. But so for my build, for example, I want these Shadows and Dust, these cast mitts, and I want them to come with either +1 max frenzy charges, or to come with flat crit chance, so like 0.7% or 0.7 base crit chance, because that's really powerful. And finding those can be difficult. It can be very expensive on league launch. So I just come over here and I go down and select gloves, and then it's clasped mitts, wherever those are. I don't seem to be able to find them. There we are. And here it says that it is a average orbs will be 4 for me to turn a corrupted pair of clasped mitts into a pair of Shadows and Dust with that same corruption. So if I can find a pair on trade of clasped mitts, just generic white, blue rare items with the +1 frenzy or with the base crit chance, then if I can buy 4 Tainted Mythic Orbs, I can turn those into a pair on average. If I'm lucky, I can turn them into a pair of Shadows and Dust. They're not going to be the as well rolled as perhaps these ones are. That's going to cost extra, but if I really am just desperate for that, then I can get them here. It has a very decent overview of everything. Obviously, there's there's bows as well. So if I wanted to find an Infractum, then it's going to take me on average 2 orbs in order to get one of those. Really nice for me. Belts, obviously, everybody's going to be looking at the heavy belts. Just 7,977 Tainted Mythic Orbs in order to be able to get a Mage Blood. So pretty easy, I think. But this is a really useful calculator to be able to figure out if you're using a weird-ish unique. For my build, again, as an example, my build it's using a Jade Amulet, and it's using one of 2 Jade Amulets. It's using either Hiri's Truth at the mid game, and it's using Karui Ward at the beginning, and it's a 1 in 7. 7 average orbs, 1 in 7 to get a Hiri's Truth, and it's a 1 in 6 to get a Karui Ward. So if I get, and both of these are plus to dexterity. I'm not really desperate for dexterity as a ranger build. So for me, this is, if the Tainted Mythic Orbs are cheap, and it gives me a really good implicit, then maybe this is a great option. Obviously, it means I'm not going to be able to anoint it very easily. But it depends on the gear piece. It depends what kind of build you're playing. But this, I think, is a super useful calculator, and I would highly recommend you give it a go. All right, and that's it for this video. Really enjoyed putting this list together as well, because these tools are super useful to playing the game, and they really add another dimension to it. Having like deep knowledge about these systems is super satisfying. So if you like this video, come and swing by the Twitch channel. We're live every day on twitch.tv/lifewithoutpants. And if you have any questions, ask them down in the comments down below. I try to reply to everything, and jump into the Twitch stream if you want to ask there as well. A super welcoming community, and we're always happy to try and help. But that's it from me. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the beach on Friday, Exiles. But with that said, I hope you are kind to everyone you meet. I love you all very much, and I'll see you in the next one.